interested in and pulls this out from under the shelf. And I said, that's ugly. What's that? Yeah. And this is before the internet, before people were collecting this stuff. I never heard of a vinyl cape Jawa. And he said, I said, some fan do that? And he said, no, you can tell even the bubble's different. And so it turns out that this was the original Jawa. And as soon as Lucasfilm saw it, they didn't like it because they said it's so obvious that it's a cloth cape, even though, you know, Obi-Wan and Vader and Leia have vinyl capes. This didn't work for them. And also, the Jawa wasn't selling because it was mostly moms and dads, mostly moms, buying the figures for their kids. And they looked at a character that they knew for $1.97, and they looked at a runt that was half the size. You know how parents think, oh, it's only half the size for the same money. And so they passed it up. And I said, well, how much? And he said, 45. I have to get 45. And I said, I just paid you 140 for 12. No, that's ridiculous. I can live without that. And went out to my car and put the key in the door. That's just so clear. And the Force talked to me. I said, get back in there, idiot. So I paid him the $45 for it. And today, this might sell for $100 to $200. This would be, in this condition, $2,000 plus.
A lot more.
More?
Even more.
I don't keep up with prices. What
an AFA 60 recently sold for about 4,000 or 5,000.
A 60?
An AFA 80, an 85 I think it was sold for $12,000.
Wow. And can you open the safe?
The way you're holding it in a normal case, I thought, don't drop it.
Oh yeah, and then we have this is fine. I don't find this, it's a little small, but not pimple head. And so this is called the small head Han, and I call this the goofy head Han because it's just awful. It's just, I mean, this looks a little like Harrison, but, what are you going to do? And, of course, I start to tell kids, there was no VH, and realize they don't have the faintest idea. So 2 years from now, I'm not even going to be able to say DVDs. You're going to have to say, there was no streaming video back then. And so we have this piece, and so you hold it in this hand,
these guys.
Yeah. And then wind that way. Yeah, and so, that's the cantina scene. So I very slowly went through that. And was waiting for the Han Greedo scene, and that's a prototype, by the way. And the Han, when they're about to shoot, it's all white. No. I wouldn't hand you things if I didn't mean for you to look at them.
So is this all like when you acquired it? Like
no, these are just shelf numbers.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So what we have up here. Some of the other items. The name action figure was actually born at Hasbro, which then was a much bigger toy company than Kenner, and of course they eventually bought Kenner in the early '90s. But large size action figure was developed because they couldn't sell G.I. Joe dolls to boys, and so it was a large size action figure. And so even though this was so successful, this was the true reason for the success of Kenner, because at this size you could make vehicles and play sets and everything else. But they said, okay, well, we need to do the big figures anyway. So everywhere in the world, this is what the Jawa looked like, except in Mexico. And the Lily Lady affiliate decided to do a wooden head Jawa with a linen cape.
Never seen one.
And we finally got a fully sculpted R2-D2 instead of a paper label, except in Mexico where they just blew up the paper label. And Mexico was also the only place where they did a Sandperson or Tusken Raider, so we don't know why. Now, George basically said about the merchandise, the one thing, just make sure you don't slap a Star Wars label on a piece of crap. They didn't hear him. And so they took a Batman utility belt, and they did Luke, Leia, and Vader. And you remember the scene where Luke uses his dart gun? That's his rope swinging across the chasm. The lightsaber, of course, you can't even put a battery in it. And the belt itself is plastic, so you really can't wear it because it's just a ridiculous thing. And as soon as Lucasfilm saw this, because it was the early days of product approval, they made them take it off sale. So they're ugly, they're crappy, and very, very rare.
Did some make it to the shelves, or was that one of the not released ones?
Nobody else seems to have it.
I've never seen one.
The Japanese had a whole year to develop things because the movie opened. Japan was the next to last country where the movie opened. It opened in June '78. They still got some things wrong. They decided to do they imported some of these, but they decided to do the Mego size figures. But there was some misconception, and they thought the generic name for action figure was Stormtrooper. And so every package originally had Stormtrooper, and so I've got half with Stormtrooper and half without. And then the Japanese toys did a lot of things that U.S. toys didn't do at the time, because they had the Transformers and the Godaikins and everything, so 3PO fires a missile from his belly button. Very, very cool. And one of my favorite pieces, this is the duplicate, which I am going to put together sometime, is the chipboard Death Star, which originated from Palitoy and was sold in the UK, France, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And they all have different labels on the bottom of it. Brilliant pieces. And because it's so hard to display, a friend of mine, Nick McCarty in the UK, made a miniature so you can see. And I am after licensees constantly. I said, don't redo the early bird kit for the 14th time. Make something like this out of chipboard. This is just a wonderful, nostalgic piece. It's a great play set, and it looks super. So
that
maybe
board,
someday.
Is that the Toll Toys version?
This is the Toll Toys version. Yes,
that's from the. You purchased it. You purchased it.
Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay, the loose one. Yeah, and this is the Palitoy version in the box. Huh. Can I have my money back?
I remember you asked for a really nice one too.
Yes. So, talk about crazy prices. This toy, not this particular toy, there was an auction in the UK about 6 months ago. FX7 on a Palitoy card, nicer card than this. $14,000 with the buyer's fee and all that kind of stuff. If it was real, which I still have some doubts about, then there are people in this world with more money than common sense, because there is no reason for that. And then a Boba Fett recently went again on a Palitoy card for something like $18,000, and none of us get it. So we're sort of wondering. If you were in Spain, then you could get Colgate dental cream with one of 70 different action figures, and this particular one is the character with the worst teeth. Not really smart, Colgate. And then in Italy, you could either buy, this is either an Ewok with glue sticks or glue sticks with an Ewok. I'm never quite sure what you are buying, frankly. But and then there was the Ewoks and Droids cartoon series that ran on ABC, one of them for 1 season, one of them for 2 seasons. Not popular at all in the US, but much more popular a couple of years later in Latin America and Europe. And so most of the toys, these are from Germany. We're not sure whether they were for babies or dogs, but they were to be chewed on anyway. These little slide viewers with the Ewoks and all kinds of crazy stuff. Over here we have a store display from Germany and England, so it only has the logo, so it could be used in either country. These are prototypes. This is the way Lucasfilm would get something hard resin, and then a paint master, and then the final version that went on sale on vinyl. This was an interesting product. So the guy at Lucasfilm doing approvals sees this as a 2-up version of the Episode 1 3PO, and he remarks about how amazing the quality is of this, and asked the company if they could hand paint one of each of these for him. And so this is a hand-painted Episode 1 3PO, but what is the final product? A Kellogg cereal spread. You can't even tell what the character is, barely, so, yeah. Oh well. You win some, you lose some.